Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. AB 2107 updates the laws governing the relationship between automobile manufacturers and franchise new car dealers to bring equity to this vital relationship. New car dealers operating as local independently owned franchise dealerships in our communities create local jobs and help spur local economic growth. If we as a state are going to meet our environmental goals and increase the number of low-emission and zero-emission vehicles on the road, we must ensure that California new car dealers are not put at a disadvantage in relation to the out-of-state automakers. It is important that the balance of power between large multinational automakers and California's new car dealers is a fair and competitive playing field. AB 2107 contains numerous provisions to address several key issues that will ensure that California car dealers are protected and, in turn, that consumers will be protected. With me today is Cliff Costa from the California New Car Dealers to testify in support and answer any questions.
In support.
Madam Chair and members, Cliff Costa on behalf of the California New Car Dealers Association. Let me first catch my breath. I'm running from upstairs, and I'm a big guy, so give me a second here. I'd like to thank the author. I want to thank the committee for their work on the bill. I want to thank the chair, the vice chair for meeting with us and talking about it. Franchise bills are important, not just to new car dealers, but to consumers and to the state. It is why the franchise laws have been around since 1973. Every few years, the California legislature steps in to help address the inherent power imbalance between us, the locally owned, independent, family-owned businesses, and the international automakers. AB 2107 is not different from previous franchise bills. They address specific automaker behavior that we believe undermines the exclusive rights of the franchise agreements that we have signed many, many years ago. Since this is a fiscal committee, I'd like to focus on the fiscal aspect of the bill. According to your analysis, the bill has
one more minute.
Minor costs. We are available to answer policy questions if you have them. The bill is quite complicated on the policy side. We had a robust hearing in Assembly Transportation Committee. We look forward to answering any policy questions you have, but I think the fiscal questions are pretty clear. It's minor costs. Thank you.
I want to remind folks that each side will have 2 folks who can do up to 2 minutes each. And please try to keep your comments to fiscal matters.
On behalf of the Alliance of Automobile Manufacturers, I'm going to focus on costs with one exception. This has nothing to do with zero-emission vehicles. We make zero-emission vehicles. We've invested tens of billions of dollars. The dealers sell, some suggest poorly, but we are the ones who make the products that they sell. With regard to costs, the bill is purposefully designed to unleash a flood of protests at the New Motor Vehicle Board to determine grandiose issues of market share, who can participate, who cannot participate. It will determine whether existing legal relationships are suddenly unlawful by your vote today. This will have dramatic effects on the economy, on the New Motor Vehicle Board, and it will fundamentally reposition the balance of influence and power at the New Motor Vehicle Board. It is not minor. It is major, major stuff, and no one, including the members of this committee, have a command of what is in this bill. We would ask you to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there additional opposition? Your name and organization.
Madam Chair and members, Ivan Altamura on behalf of Global Automakers. I would just align myself with the comments made by Mr. Urban. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just like Mr. Obalnelty said, you just heard some of the comments that were made, and I think you're pretty familiar with a number of the concerns that are being raised by the manufacturers. Is there a level of understanding that you're going to be able to work with them and continue to work with them to try to refine, maybe not get a full bridge between the two of you, but to get some consideration here and maybe get some agreement on a few issues that can be tightened up.
Absolutely, and I think we've made that commitment from the very beginning when this was presented in Judiciary. We continue to meet with the opposition, and as late as last night, we discussed the fact that we will be meeting again to continue the discussions.
So let me refer the question to the opposition. Do we have the same level of commitment from you to obtain some of these considerations that are being
Perhaps
and find compromising ground that will work?
the most honest answer is perhaps not. We have repeatedly asked the dealers to identify the 2 or 3 issues of importance to them, not the 25 issues that are now in the bill or the 25 that were originally in. We are not in the position to reward conduct where you put something stupid in a bill, throw it out, and ask to be commended. We can't do that. If they identify the 2 or 3 important issues that we have negotiated in the past, which this bill reopens, we are prepared to do that, but not the sweeping economy-wide changes that they are proposing in this bill.
I appreciate the bravado that you have and the feelings that you have on this, but I would have preferred to hear more. Yes, I'm willing to work with, but unfortunately, I see that you're probably at a point of impasse, and it is a place where, like Mr. Obelnuthi just said, where the legislature must weigh in. So thank you so much, and we'll work best on another one.
See no other comments. I'll just make mine. I'm very disappointed with the opponent's reaction to the question by my colleague. I found it interesting with my colleague, Mr. Bigelow. I can use your name, right? What Mr. Bonta says is right, but you just told us you won't negotiate. I find that disappointing because yesterday you were in my office asking for an extra week for negotiations. I talked to the author. She suggested to me that you guys weren't open to negotiations. That clearly is true from what I just heard. I would suggest, sir, and it's very, I literally have never had someone sit there losing saying we won't negotiate. So I think you are, having done negotiations for a long time in my past, I would say you're in a bad spot. And that's probably not an attitude to move forward with if you want to actually not be rolled over with this bill. So I would just suggest you rethink that attitude and perhaps give the author the kind of respect she deserves in asking to come together, or else your complaints are meaningless. You can't sit and tell somebody, Madam Author, you have two points you're allowed to make in this bill, and you have 25 that you're making. Because you may think you're saying that to the supporters, but you're saying that to the author, and that's highly disrespectful. So it's her bill. I suggest you sit down with her, the supporters, and figure out how to work this through. So with that, would you like to close, Ms. Reyes?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill will continue to evolve as it already has been amended several times. I will offer additional amendments on the floor once this bill passes today. According to the fiscal analysis, this bill has minor costs, and again, I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. And that bill was moved by Ms. Carrillo, second by Mr. Nazarian, and it gets out on an A roll call with Mr. Bloom not voting. Thank you.